name of the person who you interviewed.
That's Paul Carter Harrison.
What a genius. What a great thinker. And he's talking about the use of nigger, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a curse word. Mm-hmm. It's a pejorative, and there's no two ways about it. Mm-hmm. He was talking, and he was agreeing with that point of view about how it's not good. You know, maybe it serves a purpose when you're writing antebellum fiction or something like that, but then you have to know that you're going to use that word in the same way that you might use the word motherfucker, as he cites specifically. You don't use the term motherfucker if you don't know the context or the people to whom you're using it. Well, I have a problem with many of my friends and colleagues who call themselves queer. Because when I was growing up, you did not use the term queer without meaning that you wanted to bash somebody's head in. This was in Queens in the early 60s. And it's like, oh yeah, let's go over to this place in Jackson Heights and roll a few queers was a typical kind of a thing. The word was never used in a polite or non-pejorative context. Now, so many people say, we're here, we're queer, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I say, that really makes me uncomfortable, even though I've helped run queer festivals for writers and things like that. And I'm quite open about this with them. They say, well, we've reclaimed the word. It's like, yeah, you own it right now. At this moment in history, you've got the rainbow logo and all that, and I think it's wonderful. But the problem is that after, let's forget President Trump, let's think about the next in the dynasty of that kind of person, or in some other country, they're going to reclaim the word, and all of a sudden bashing is going to start happening again, and all of a sudden it's going to become a word used by people that are willing to shoot 49 people in a nightclub in Orlando, Florida. The pejorative of that has not gone away. Now, maybe it wouldn't have made a difference to that asshole if they had just called themselves gay. But to me, and the society in which I was brought up, and watching old cinema and listening to old radio and all that, the terms queer or fairy or whatever are not nice words.
It's interesting because I remember Nat Hentoff used Right to Village Voice. Now, what happened it's interesting because we went to old days.
Hentoff is another genius, but I think he was wrong about so much.
Let me just say, get this out. What happened was he was one of those people that when they put out a new dictionary, like Merriam-Webster, whatever, they would consult him with new words, whatever have you. And at some point, he railed on in the Village Voice, the weekly newspaper, about the use of the word gay. He says, "I'm through with this." He was railing and said, "They can't appropriate gay means you're happy. It doesn't mean this other thing." And so words evolve. So this whole thing.
Although we can trace gay back to the 1890s. I had a discussion of this on the radio just 2 weeks ago. And if you watch the movie Bringing Up Baby, which Cary Grant was 1941, where he is, for complicated comedy reasons, wearing a woman's robes, and the woman comes home and she says, "But why are you wearing my robes?" And Cary Grant leaps in the air and says, "Because I've suddenly gone gay all of a sudden." That's 1942, 43. So this is a word that goes back. It always, and people in Hollywood who knew, elbowed each other and said, that was funny.
Yeah.
So that was not actually a pejorative. That was, but yes.
That's what you call these days an Easter egg or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, very much so. But at that time, if you said that you felt queer, that meant that you were a little bit sick to your stomach, or that a short story had something weird, as in supernatural, about it. So you went to a foggy bank and it was queer. Something could jump out at you. Or you just felt queer. You're dizzy,
Essentially, in my neighborhood in South Bronx where I grew up, well, we wasn't doing queer or gay, whatever. We was doing faggot, and it wasn't a bad, it wasn't a bad thing because interestingly enough, almost every group had, I'm going to say, a faggot in it, but we wouldn't think faggot wasn't necessarily a bad term.
Depends on where you live.
It depends on how you said it. So if somebody said to a homosexual man, "Oh, you're a faggot," like that, the guy said, "I may be a faggot, but I can kick your ass." And he beat him up.
That's true of any of these words.
But then again, we could say it in a regular to anybody, and it would be fine. It's just how you use it.
It's the context. It's always the context.
I have a great story. I've told this story before. In fact, it's on YouTube someplace. I have to tell you the story. When I was in Belize, there was this guy, and they called him Nigger Charlie. And he got the name because there's a blaxploitation film so-called blaxploitation film called The Legend of Nigger Charlie. And when they showed it in Belize, somebody in the audience said, "That looks like Charlie." The guy was there. So the whole, Belize is a small town in
country, really.
It's in Punta Gorda. But Punta Gorda is where this guy is from. But Punta Gorda is a small town. It's the most biggest town in Belize. And so everybody in that place called him Nigger Charlie from then on. It was well known. Well, some rednecks, some from the South who were I guess they were trying to run away from some crime they did, whatever have you. They just thought this was so funny. So every time they call him, they say Nigger Charlie, but they said it. So he took them to court. And in court, he said, they call him the judge, but the judge says, well, Charlie, I thought that was your name. He says, yes, but not the way they say it. And that's the story. Not the way they say it.
Well, Hentoff was a complicated guy because he was this absolutist in freedom of speech to the point where there was he was so absolute about it that he was wrong. There are some words that just should not be used under certain circumstances. And I can't think of a friendly use of the word nigger spoken by certain people. I certainly don't want to appropriate for my people the word kike. I can't see anybody ever saying, "Hey, it's Kike Jim," and being friendly about it. There is no context for that. It doesn't exist. But it's the same logic. And there are just some lines that are it's not just a question of disrespectful, it's a question of verbal violence. The way some people use these things. So I have funny feelings when in the context of my youth, certain words that were used as a pejorative in a violent, nasty manner become not only accepted but re-owned and reused and rephrased. Now, I work a lot in technology and I hear things reborn all the time using old words and stuff like that. It's a similar kind of a thing only insofar as how language is used, what the etymology is, what the semantics are. I'm possibly Noam Chomsky could get into it, but I've never heard it expressed as well by anybody ever than that guy in that video.
Paul Harrison.
Yeah, and I was very impressed when I looked him up in Wikipedia and saw the actors who he's trained and all that. And by the way, everybody, if you're somebody who produces audiobooks, use this guy. He has got a voice.
Oh yeah.
He is magnificent.
Well, he makes his home in Panama now.
Does he?
Yes.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell him. We're here to see this. Thanks.